They thought she was just another cashier standing behind the counter all day. But what they didn't know was that she owned the entire supermarket, and when the truth came out, their smug whispers turned into stunned silence. The supermarket doors slid open with a soft mechanical hum, releasing a swirl of sounds and scents that instantly swallowed the senses. The rhythmic clatter of carts, the chime of the scanner, and the warm aroma of freshly baked bread filled the air like a symphony of routine. A place that for many people was nothing more than a pit stop for milk and eggs suddenly became a stage. Though no one in that moment knew a drama was quietly unfolding, customers rushed in and out with the same hurried energy. Some glued to their phones, others balancing toddlers on their hips, a few too busy comparing cereal boxes to notice anything beyond the shelves. And yet, just inside the entrance, someone stood still, calm, composed, watching everything. She was dressed plainly, deliberately unremarkable, a navy blouse that seemed ordinary, black slacks that blended into the background, and a modest watch that ticked silently on her wrist. Nothing about her appearance screamed wealth, authority, or power. If anything, she looked like one of the workers, one of the many faceless figures who stocked shelves at dawn, bagged groceries till their fingers ached, or stood behind registers, smiling at strangers who rarely bothered to make eye contact. That's what most people saw, and most people are quick to assume, as she moved gracefully toward the checkout lanes. A group of new customers, outsiders to the neighborhood, strangers in the store, let their assumptions spill louder than they realized. There she is, one of them muttered, eyes following her like she was part of the scenery. The cashier, right? Must be tiring standing there all day. Their voices weren't cruel, but they carried that sharp edge of dismissal, the tone people use when they've already judged someone without knowing a single truth about them. Their laughter was soft, but it was enough. Enough to slice through the hum of the supermarket and land squarely in her ears. She didn't flinch. She didn't whip around to defend herself, didn't raise her chin to declare who she really was. Instead, she did something far more unsettling. She smiled. It wasn't the hollow smile of someone used to being overlooked. It wasn't even the forced politeness of a tired worker. It was a smile layered with mystery, one that carried secrets too heavy for casual gossip to crush. A smile that said, "You don't even know what you're looking at." Around her, the store kept moving as if nothing had happened. A toddler cried for candy. A man argued into his phone about late deliveries. The cashier at lane 3 rang up a stack of bottled water with bored efficiency. Everything screamed normal, but she didn't feel normal. She felt hidden, like a queen disguised as a pawn on a chessboard. The strangers, however, didn't notice the subtle details, the way employees glanced up when she passed, straightening unconsciously, as though a shadow of authority trailed behind her. They didn't notice how she didn't carry a shopping basket, how her eyes didn't dart for deals or discounts, but instead lingered on the finer details, a crooked sign, a misplaced can, a line forming too long at one register. They didn't notice the way her watch ticked in rhythm with a mind constantly calculating, analyzing, observing. All they saw was what they wanted to see, a cashier in disguise. And yet, there was something about her presence that didn't quite fit the picture. Even in her simple attire, she moved with quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not showiness, but the kind of steady composure people build only after conquering storms others couldn't survive. Still, the customers laughed, their voices dripping with assumptions. Imagine standing there every day. Poor thing, I wouldn't last a week. She must get minimum wage. Probably just trying to scrape by. Their words floated in the air, careless, almost cruel in their thoughtlessness. Words meant for no one, but powerful enough to wound anyone, if she let them. But she didn't. She simply adjusted the strap of her watch, let the corners of her mouth curl upward, and kept walking. Because unknown to them, their words weren't insulting, they were ironic. Ironic because the cashier wasn't who they thought she was. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was restraint. Her smile wasn't submission, it was patience. And her modest outfit wasn't necessity, it was choice. What those customers couldn't see was that behind that quiet smile stood a story forged in sleepless nights, in rejection letters, in countless battles fought in boardrooms and bank offices. A story they would soon learn, but not in the way they expected. Because sometimes, the person you dismiss in the crowd is the very one who built the walls around you. And as she walked deeper into the store, blending into the buzz of everyday life, One thing became clear. She wasn't hiding. She was waiting. Waiting for the moment when truth would unfold like a thunderclap, and every careless whisper would die in stunned silence. The customer's assumptions spread quickly. Others nodded, agreeing silently with the label, Cashier. They watched her move around the store, greeting workers, checking a shelf here, straightening a price tag there. To them, it looked like the work of an ordinary employee. What they didn't notice, though, was the way the other staff members reacted. The butchers straightened when she walked past. The managers quickly shuffled papers into order. Even the head of accounting stood taller when her shadow crossed his desk. She wasn't invisible to them. She was the reason their jobs existed. Yet the whispers continued. She must be working double shifts, someone said. Maybe she's just trying to climb her way up. They didn't realize she was already at the top. Years ago, before this building was ever stocked with apples or lined with aisles of cereal, she had been told she would never make it in business. Banks turned her away. Competitors laughed at her. Even her friends told her supermarkets were a man's game. But she had a fire in her that no rejection could extinguish. Piece by piece, she built the empire. First with a tiny grocery stall, then a rented shop, then, finally, the sprawling supermarket they now stood in. Every corner of this place, from the bakery ovens to the shiny glass doors of the freezers, was born of her grit and sleepless nights. Still, she had learned to stay humble, to blend in. Power doesn't always wear a crown. It sometimes wears the quiet armor of patience. One of the customers, growing bolder, waved her over at the checkout counter. "Miss, can you ring these up for me?" The cashier at the register froze, unsure whether to laugh or intervene. But the woman simply chuckled, picked up the items, and placed them gently on the belt. She scanned them with practiced ease, because yes, in the early days, she had stood behind that very register for endless shifts. But when the total appeared on the screen, she leaned closer, her voice calm but firm. "I'll cover this bill," she said. The customer blinked, confused. "You don't have to." "I know," she replied. "But I insist. After all, it's my store." Gasps spread through the line like wildfire. "Your store?" someone whispered. The once dismissive voices now fell silent. Word traveled quickly, faster than any receipt could print. The cashier was not an employee, but the very owner, the mastermind behind the market they depended on. Those who had underestimated her shifted uncomfortably, realizing their mistake. But she wasn't cruel. She didn't scold or gloat. Instead, she left them with a smile that spoke of resilience, victory, and a quiet reminder. Never judge someone by the role you assume they play. From that day forward, every shopper who walked through the doors of the supermarket carried a little more respect. Not just for the woman who owned the place, but for every unseen struggle, every untold story, and every person who refused to let labels define them. And that's the truth behind the woman they dismissed as just a cashier. A reminder that every person carries a story bigger than what meets the eye. So, before you judge, remember, appearances can be the greatest disguise. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment below about where you're watching from. And of course, hit subscribe to get more stories like this one.